Hey there. Before we get into this whole lesson on You Incorporated, I want to give you a little bit of the backstory on this. So let's turn back the clock almost 2 decades. And at the time, I am a department head, and I had moved out of a high end IT consulting role within the organization and became a department head and had 30 to 40 employees with some contractors and whatnot. And it was kind of a hybrid role between business and IT because I could speak both languages. And at the time, that organization, that department was moved up under the CFO, and she, to this date, remains probably my favorite leader I've ever worked for. So many things that I use as tools to this day, I learned from her. And one of those is the concept of wearing different hats. So she would often say, "Well, William, if you put on your budgeting hat, you'll view this differently than if you would if you're looking at your strategic hat." So there's a whole bunch of different hats that she would ask me to don for conversations and way of focusing my thinking. And I found that useful when brushing this curriculum off and trying to actually make it a little bit more digestible for creative types. And so there's two hats that you wear in this whole thing, the artist hat and the CEO hat. One very focused on the art and the other one very focused on the business. So I think you're going to find this fascinating. This is a piece that I wrote a really long time ago, and I'm glad that I dusted it off. There's a lot of stuff I changed just because I didn't think it was as well written as what I would do today, which made me think that, well, at least I've improved with age. So that's really a positive thing that came out of that. So I hope you enjoy this. Don't hesitate to ask any questions about this. I would encourage you to look at the whole strategic planning series that I'm putting out here in conjunction with this. This is just a way of framing it, to get your mind focused on how to separate this concept of being both the artist and the business person, the artist hat and the CEO hat. So hope you enjoy. Let's get to it.
Part 1: The Artist and the CEO. For the independent musician who seeks to take charge of their own musical career, there exists a paradox regarding the roles we must assume. We are faced with the daunting task of having to be the creative force, the passionate performer, and the other facets of being the artist, while taking the business aspects in a serious context. In the grand scheme of things, we have to address all facets of both artistic and business aspects by either doing it ourselves, the do it yourself DIY model, or paying others for that service. One of the key objectives of this course is to empower artists with the knowledge and tools needed to make solid decisions regarding your career, especially in the context of DIY versus using a service provider. So, one hat you wear is the artist hat. While wearing the artist hat, you approach life within the framework you've established as that person. This typically includes your general outlook and lifestyle. One of the important things to take into consideration is the role of CEO of You Incorporated doesn't necessarily have to abandon the outlook or the lifestyle in order to wear that hat effectively. However, with that said, when the outlook or the lifestyle impedes the results or focus of that role, decisions have to be made. Some of those decisions can be tough and life altering. I will expand on that thought in a moment. First, let's take a look at why this is important. Why should you care, let alone commit yourself to this concept? I would offer these reasons for adopting what we propose to teach you. Leave nothing to luck. The majority of successful people will tell that luck played a very minor role in their overall fruition. Most people make it happen through will, determination, and a plan. Becoming business savvy in your endeavors can yield lifelong benefits, regardless if you pursue a music career or not. Investing in yourself, your education, and your own empowerment will allow you to navigate the path to success with a greater degree of confidence and assurance of meeting your objectives. Separation of ego is not as foreign a concept for musical artists as it may be for some other professions. You naturally do this to an extent. For example, when you perform on stage as a solo act, you take on the intimacy responsibility for creating an emotional connection with the audience. However, when you perform as one member of a fun cover band project, your focus and energy are often completely different. We all tend to have slightly different artistic personalities depending on whom we are engaged with. The challenge to you is to invest the time to develop the multiple sides of yourself into two distinct roles, one that wears the artist hat and another that wears the CEO hat. Over time, the traits become intermingled into creating a singular super you. Part 2, the different dynamics. We've used many common sense proven methodologies to create a series of immersion techniques that will allow you to take control of your ambitions and wear that CEO hat with confidence and enthusiasm. Depending on your aspirations, you should consider some basic business education. This course is simply designed to introduce you to these concepts and approaches. So let's explore the differences when wearing the artist hat versus the CEO hat. There are three core elements that we will examine: the message, the image, and the bank. The message. What is your message? By message, I'm referring to a singular concept that you convey through your art. I realize that this could be difficult to deduce. For some artists, their message is anti establishment or anger for society's woes. For others, it may be materialism, wealth, and sex. Still, for others, it may be a single positive message. The point is your message. Only you can determine what it is. There is no right or wrong answer as to what your message should be. A message can change over time. Madonna, John Mayer, and Cat Stevens are examples of artists who have altered their message over time. Dave Matthews, Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, and Robert Smith of The Cure are examples of artists whose message has remained predominantly stable over many years. Here are some of the dynamics we must consider between roles. When wearing the artist hat, the message should be reflected in your work product and relevant peripherals, such as items used to construct our image and media exposure. The message should be reflected in activities you engage, i.e., volunteer work, political affiliations, causes you support, and general public facing persona. The message is always bigger than the individual. When wearing the CEO hat, the message must be viewed as part of the marketing mission. In other words, if your message is free Mars and you wish to make money, and then part of your objective is to be in opposition to the enslave Mars movement and to draw financial support from those who share your position and outlook. Your corporation you incorporated is bigger than the message. Only when wearing the CEO hat does the message ever take a back seat. Simply put, wearing that business hat means you are all business. Wearing your CEO hat does not mean you divorce yourself of your message. Rather, it means your focus isn't the message. It's selling that message and your tie to the message. Before moving on, it is imperative to emphasize the importance having a concise and direct message. How direct and concise is your message? If you are unsure, here's a quick and easy way to validate if it is. Ask 4 of your closest friends to write a sentence or two describing what they believe your message is. Of course, you should do the same as well. Next, you synthesize the results based on keywords such as fun-loving or happy-go-lucky or the world is screwed or desire, etc. Lastly, you should condense this down to a simple and exact phrase that summarizes you. Optimistic daydreamer is an example of a concise phrase, entails a wide array of musical and personality options. The image. What is your image? As much as your message conveys what you are about, your image conveys who you are. You message may be sexy, but your image is probably more in line with sex symbol. Your image embodies how the rest of the world perceives you. A person's image can be impacted by their actions. It is entirely possible that an artist's image is a contrived mechanism solely for marketing purposes. Your image delivers your message to the public. There is a wide array of considerations with respect to building and maintaining one's image, but that is not our objective today. The objective is to understand how image will vary depending on which hat you are wearing. Here are some of the dynamic differences between the roles. When wearing the artist hat, your image can take on an almost anti-business disposition. In other words, your image as the artist can be undisciplined, raw, and very in tune with a lifestyle, including the risks associated with particular lifestyles. Your image takes on a personality of its own. Your image and your message are ultimately what people will be drawn to. Through performance, you use both to create moments of emotional connectivity that form long lasting bonds with your fan base. Your image represents to some of what the world knows about you. When wearing the CEO hat, while wearing your CEO hat, the tendency must be to exercise restraint where you otherwise might not. This could also mean exercising discipline where you might not otherwise. Your corporation, you incorporated, is the judge and jury on your image. If your stock is plummeting because of your image, you have to take action to minimize any negative financial impact. If your stock is rising because of your image, you must seek ways to exploit that in ways that maximizes your financial gain. Your image represents a marketable attribute that is either an asset or a liability. Again, wearing your CEO hat doesn't mean you divorce yourself from your image. Instead, this is about gaining valuable insight into yourself and being able to discern how your image is either working for you or working against you from a business context. Keep in mind that old saying, there is no such thing as bad press. To a large degree, this is very true. However, you should keep in mind that the public is fickle. What they love today, they may hate tomorrow. Your CEO role is who is responsible for weathering any storms. The danger with image is when you become fully immersed in it with blind disregard for introspective analysis. In other words, your image may embody the whole party like a rock star mantra. There is nothing wrong with that, with boundaries and limits. If all you do is party and don't have the discipline to stop and keep your business in order, then maintaining your image will undermine your business. I encourage you to seek a sense of balance, especially at the outset. For every hour you spend on leisure, you should spend equal time building your business. When you have reached some of your financial goals, then you can start tipping the scale more in the recreational direction. The bank. The term the bank is just a term for this exercise to describe all aspects of dealing with finances. There are some important differences in how we view and manage the financial aspects of our lives, depending on which hat we are wearing. Your bank is both your freedom and your prison. In context, your message may reflect your view of your bank, or lack of, and your image may have a dependence on your bank for sustainability. Regardless, we have to have a firm understanding of the cause and effect these other attributes impose on our finances. Here are some of the dynamic differences between the roles when wearing the artist hat. Your bank should be a mystery at all times to the general public. If your last record made $2 or $2 million, this should not be part of your vocabulary to the masses. The exception is if your image is a high roller with an emphasis on bling, then chances are you will work your finances in the equation, even if it's a front to give the illusion of having significant bank. The artist is the spender. While wearing this hat, you should ultimately be looking for ways to spend money. The artist has wants and needs that should be accounted for, if not in a plan, then at least within a list. Your bank represents your capabilities. When wearing the CEO hat, the CEO has the overall financial status readily available at all times. This isn't just validating what you have in your checking account. This is communicating financial information to your various stakeholders, i.e., managers, helpers, musicians, etc., when appropriate. Most importantly, the CEO is looking at tax implications and business expenses. If the artist is looking to spend money, the CEO is looking to save money. Ultimately, this responsibility equates to being the keeper of the budget. It also entails ensuring that you are addressing the needs of both the artist and the business. Your bank represents what is going to take care of you when your image and message become irrelevant. It is here, with your finances, where the single biggest obstacle to success will lie. Always keep in mind that money is a matter of the heart. We hold money near and dear to us. Attack someone's money, and you are without a doubt attacking them. The number one reason people exit relationships is not infidelity, it is financial problems. Finances have a direct correlation to our sense of freedom and our captivity. My advice to you is to take a good long look in the mirror and determine how good you really are at making your money work for you. The purpose isn't to create any anxiety or to insinuate you are not good with money, but rather to place the act of managing money clearly in either your list of strengths or your list of weaknesses. Like anything that is new or foreign, managing your business's finances requires commitment and practice, lots of practice. However, over time, old habits give way to new habits, and the next thing you know, you are sitting on $150,000 worth of cash and investments. Being able to separate into these roles allows you to create a system of checks and balances that have one single purpose: taking care. Part 3: The Recipe for You Incorporated. How do you get your arms around becoming an effective business person? Everyone will have different starting points. Some will be much more versed in business etiquette than others. Here is the general recipe we recommend you follow. Step 1: gain an understanding of the roles you have to assume to effectively treat your career as a business. This video can serve as an introduction to those roles. Step 2: define the attributes of your business. The key attributes from the artistic perspective are your message and your image. From a business perspective, these are your mission and vision statements, as well as your value proposition. If you aren't familiar with these, no worries, we will cover these in a minute. Step 3: define your strategic objectives based on your key business objectives. We wouldn't recommend looking further than a 2-year window. Step 4: use strategic planning tools to tie your strategic and tactical efforts. The hard work begins when you have to take something more conceptual and make it finite. Step 5: define and implement granular strategies. Every aspect of your business requires thought as to what your approach will be regarding marketing, performances, content, etc. Step 6: build and execute task-based action plans based on those individual strategies. The devil is in the details. Your plan, or lack thereof, has a direct impact on your results. The better the plan, the better your odds of achieving your business objectives. As an artist, you should be naturally drawn to having big ideas and concepts. Those are great and quite necessary, but without the ability to get those ideas and concepts out of the clouds and down into the trenches, they are just words. Every artist would like the outcome of people investing in their craft and their hard work. That is why it is so surprising that more do not take the time to invest into their careers through incorporating a solid plan, the habits to execute that plan, and the business knowledge to manage it all. At a certain level of success, you can hire people to manage these things, and perhaps you are fortunate enough to have people who volunteer their business talents. Most artists do not. This means, unfortunately, that you have to seize these things for the sake of your own success. Now let's go over what makes up a vision statement, mission statement, and value proposition. 1. Your vision statement. Your vision statement should explain your aspirations within a predetermined time period. In this case, we recommend no later than a 2-year window. A vision statement is a concise declaration of goals and aspirations for that period and serves as a guiding beacon. Here are 2 examples of vision statements. Disney: to be one of the world's leading producers and providers of entertainment and information. Tesla: to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. Did you notice how concise each of these are? Your vision statement should not be a paragraph, but rather a sentence or two that explains the success you will be striving for at the end of the period. 2. Your mission statement. Your mission statement is basically why you do what you do. It is the reason for you being an artist. This is your identity. This is your purpose. If your vision statement is your aspirations, your mission statement gives clarity as to who you are and will be while in pursuit of those aspirations. Here are some examples of mission statements. Starbucks: to inspire and nurture the human spirit. One person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Nike, to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Mission statements are invaluable when it comes to good decision making. They serve as a North Star, ensuring we are staying consistent with who we are. If it goes directly against your mission, it might not be a good decision. 3. Your value proposition. If your vision statement is your aspirations and your mission statement is your identity, then your value proposition is why people should buy into your art and thus you. It is what differentiates you from anyone else who might be doing something similar. The combination of all three are very powerful tools. When done properly, they give unprecedented clarity and direction. These three things alone can stop you from wasting time and energy and allow you to gain greater traction. Now that we covered how we can wear the artist hat and the CEO hat, the different dynamics of your message, image, and the bank, as well as your vision statement, mission statement, and value proposition, it is critical we discuss how to make these living items and not stuck in a file somewhere. As the CEO, you should know how to ensure all this works in concert, thus giving you distinct competitive advantage. The recipe for your success also has to include some change management. Change management is a very nuanced topic, one which we will save for another course. However, for this exercise, we can distill it down to some repeatable steps that you will need to perform to get the most out of any plan you create. Here are those steps. 1. Measure. 2. Set objective. 3. Define plan. 4. Monitor. 5. Measure. Those steps repeat periodically, usually when reviewing your plan and your progress. This process prevents your plan from being static and unyielding. Plans have to be dynamic and responsive as new information impacting them becomes available. 1. Measure. In order to have a path, you need a starting point and a destination. Growth and improvement have to be measured against a baseline. In this capacity, we must define where we are with respect to the key dynamics we've discussed. Let's take a closer look. Let's start with your message. Wearing the artist hat. The initial measurement is an exercise to define or refine your message down to a simple phrase which is the embodiment of what you are about. How ingrained into your persona is your message? How are you working your message into your content and performance? Wearing the CEO hat. Who is the target audience of your message? What demographic conclusions can you make? What is the marketing strategy for your message? What are the threats and opportunities surrounding your message? Now let's look at your image, wearing the artist hat. How congruent is your image and your message? How aligned is your image to your objectives? How aligned is your image to the creation of moments of emotional connectivity with your audience and fans? Wearing the CEO hat. How many hours a week are you able to put your image aside to focus on building your business? What is the marketing strategy for your image? What are the strengths and weaknesses associated with your image? What are the opportunities and threats surrounding your image? Now, lastly, let's look at your bank. Wearing the artist hat. As the artist, what are your foreseeable needs with the next month, 3 months, and 12 months? As the artist and performer, are you taking every opportunity to ask your audience and fans for more of a contribution? Wearing the CEO hat. Are you educated on how to handle expenses for tax deductions at the outset? Have you created a budget for everything from socialization to marketing? How are you determining where to invest your money? These are just a few of the measurements needed to establish your starting. 2. Setting objectives. Setting objectives is not some lofty exercise like, I want to hit record or I want to be a millionaire. Your objectives need to be much more granular in nature and have a tie back to the measurements you've already completed. All objectives contain a verb such as lower, increase, establish, produce, develop, etc. The secret to setting good objectives is 1. Know where you are starting from, and 2. Understand your baseline from the 4 dimensions of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. For example, your image is either an asset or a liability to your goals. Embedded in your image are certain strengths, certain weaknesses, environmental opportunities, and threats. The general rule is that you should create objectives that either maintain your strengths, address or improve your weaknesses, take advantage or exploit opportunities, and mitigate known threats. 3. Defining the plan. Planning doesn't have to be something you cringe at doing. Fear is often a barrier of embracing having one. Many plans fail, but not having one isn't wise either. Some people have as many plans as they do ideas, and none ever see fruition. Any good plan will be based on the elements we've discussed. It will transform everything we have discussed into tangible milestones. Plans should be measurable, executable, and realistic. 4. Monitoring progress. No plan, no matter how well conceived, will go forth and do itself. Success is dependent on formalizing a method of monitoring your results and instituting a contingency plan should your plan start to go awry. Baby step milestones and larger milestones are great monitoring points. Please keep in mind that building and executing a plan is not easy, even for trained individuals. Trust that the results are usually worth any pain and effort. 5. Measuring again. If the starting point requires measurement, then the finish line does as well. One purpose for measuring again is to find out if you landed where you thought you would. The other purpose has to do with estimating. When you build a plan, you have to sometimes make some wild guesses at how long something will take to accomplish or how much it will cost. Estimating is an art all in itself. The better you are at estimating time, effort, and money, the better you will be in all aspects of your life. The third reason for measuring again is the most important. You have to answer the question, what's next? Once you've rang the bell and accomplished an objective based on your plan, it's time to find out where you're at and either set the bar higher or do something different. So, what's next? Now that you've been exposed to these concepts and tools, you will have to chart your next steps. We all know that talent alone will not make your dreams come true. It will require either an enormous amount of luck or a well-devised plan or both. That luck and your plan have to be coupled with will, determination, and a ton of effort. If you are serious about being your own boss and taking control of the outcome of your career, then you are now armed with some good information for accomplishing that task. For more information, we encourage you to watch all of our videos related to strategic planning. If you want someone in your corner who can facilitate the process of creating a strategic plan, we would love to help you and even coach you and help ensure you stay on track. Check out tinymessengermedia.com for more information.